Hello, Dijon here. In the comics portion of episode 140 of the Mustercast, we go over what books we've been reading lately, review the first 3 issues of Absolute Wonder Woman, and discuss why this version of the character has brought in so many new readers. Please enjoy. So, moving on to comics. What have you guys been reading lately?
It's been light for me too in the comics and honestly just general reading department, but I've made a goal this year to read at least 6 books over the course of the year. More, of course, is better, but um, you know, right now I'm rereading House of Leaves. I feel like I talked about that already, but I'm getting pretty far into it. And the second reread is kind of driving me crazy because I'm noticing things that I didn't notice my first read because I didn't know them, and it's kind of insane. And then of course comics, the usual suspects, Shadow's House, Claymore, the Witches or Witch Hat Atelier. Claymore is actually proving to be a lot longer than I had expected, especially for a manga that came out during the time it did. I'm not mad at it. There is a lot of I'm not mad that there's a lot of Claymore because I really like it, but it's been making getting through it pretty slow. And then of course book club stuff. Teehee teehee.
Anything for you, Brie?
For me, um, I have not been reading anything. If anything, I should go through the pictures I have on my phone and just go to like a Barnes and Noble and buy all the books that I want and then get into my old lady era and just read a book before bed every night
That's what I
instead
do.
of just like being on my phone.
That's what I do. I read before I go to sleep.
Oh man, it stimulates the brain. I need it bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's the goal this year. Trying to make healthier decisions.
Mm.
it's always good. For me, still reading Song of Achilles. I'm a little over halfway through the book. I left off with Achilles and Patroclus joining the war with Odysseus, alongside Odysseus. And I'm excited to see where that goes. In terms of comics, I still have a stack of physical comics I need to read. So far, I think I've only read the latest issue of The Ultimates, which was, I think, issue number 19. In terms of DC Comics, which I mostly read digitally, I read Action Comics number 1092, Nightwing number 132, the last 2 issues of Birds of Prey, issues number 27, 28, which I'm sad to see the story in because I really liked it. But, feels good to have one less book to read when I'm reading so many. I read Justice League Unlimited number 13, Mortal Legend Batman number 4, Absolute Batman number 14, which was fire. It was the end of the big Bane arc, the second arc of the book. And, if you guys decide to read more Batman, which you probably will eventually, you'll love Bane. I read Absolute Wonder Woman number 14, which also, the next issue, 15, which I bought physically and I need to go pick up, is a crossover with Batman, the first crossover between characters, and between the main characters at least. There was like a spin-off single issue comic called Absolute Evil that was having all of the villains across the books get together and form this version of the Legion of Doom. But this is the first time 2 heroes have crossed over, and that's Batman and Wonder Woman in Absolute Wonder Woman number 15. And then in Absolute Batman number 16, they're crossing over again. I also read the very last issue of Green Arrow, number 30, which another one that's I'm very sad to see go. I like Birds of Prey, but Green Arrow was one of their best books, and it sucks that it's ending. I read Flash number 27, New Gods number 12, another book that ended, but was I think planned for 12 issues, so not as sad. Written by Ram V, same writer as Aquaman Andromeda, so I definitely suggest checking that out. It'll teach you about a bunch of characters you probably haven't had too much experience with in terms of DC. There's a Mr. Miracle focused episode in Justice League Unlimited, but yeah, you definitely like this, I think.
But
I read Cheetah and Cheshire, Rob Justice League number 4, Supergirl number 7, World's Finest number 45, and lastly, I read Justice Society of America number 13 and 14, which were they're doing a year one story chronicling the origins of the Justice Society of America in the 40s, and I read the parts 1 and 2 of that, which is why I'm hopping in at 13 rather than number 1. But yeah, moving on to the book club. We're starting off 2026. I almost said 2024 for some reason. We're starting
I
off
wish.
20. Maybe I said that
Right.
because I think that might have been when the Absolute comic started. I think it was the end of 2024. But yeah,
That makes
starting
sense.
off 2026. I almost said 4 again. With Absolute Wonder Woman, written by Kelly Thompson, with pencils and inks by Hayden Sherman, colors by Jordi Belair, letters by Becca Carey, cover by Sherman and Belair, and edited by Chris Conroy. A quick synopsis of the first 3 issues. In issue number 1, without the island paradise, without the sisterhood that shaped her, without a mission of peace, what's left is the absolute Amazon. In issue number 2, Gateway City has never seen anything like the Harbinger Prime, the enormous, ravenous monster that has just risen from the depths of the ocean to darken its shores. But the Harbinger has never seen anything like the unstoppable Diana, Princess of the Underworld. Issue number 3, a Harbinger is but a messenger. It is the tetracide that you must fear, for the tetracide leaves nothing behind. Diana's true enemy has been revealed, and it will take everything she has to save Gateway City from oblivion. As usual, we'll start with our opinions on the art, and I personally would like to start by talking about the incredible character designs by Hayden Sherman. The art itself by Hayden Sherman, colored by Jordi Belair is incredible, but Hayden Sherman specifically designed this version of Wonder Woman, and it's awesome. Though I still prefer the classic Wonder Woman look because it's the one I grew up with. This design is very fun, very, very dark in comparison to the main universe. The blue, the American flag colors with gold, sometimes silver, and in this one it's just red and black with some silver. And I love the fact that she just straight up has the Buster Sword from Final Fantasy VII, just straight up.
It's so cool.
It's just a Buster Sword. Most Wonder Woman fans hate when her main weapon is a sword because it's a tool for killing and should be a last resort. And we tend to prefer that she uses her lasso, which only binds foes and forces them to tell the truth, which is very emblematic of the character herself. But if you're going to give her a sword, make it a big ass anime sword. Also, making her bigger and buffer than ever, yet covering her entire body with armor, even her face towards the beginning of the story, is a bold choice for a character that, for all intents and purposes, has been a bit of a sex icon for decades, 80 plus years. And those are the types of design choices you look for in a universe that's actively trying to do something new with these characters. But also, this design feels like it lends itself more to the female gaze than the male gaze
Definitely.
of her classic
For
look.
sure.
With her being fully
gazing.
covered, but then also being just this big buff lady. And, especially now more than ever, people are into big buff ladies.
This one's for the girls.
Yeah. And also, in terms of art, Gateway City looks very pretty, despite everything that's happening. I'd like to live there, minus the tetracide. That'd be fun. But who knows? If I was getting attacked by monsters, but I got to see Wonder Woman every now and again, maybe I'd be okay with it.
You know what? That is something.
Good point.
Be okay with.
Maybe that's a trade-off. But what did you guys think of the art and design in this comic so far?
For me, what really caught my attention is like the paneling for each page. Like it's very complex, and the way that they use shapes like circles and like what is it called? A rhombus. Okay. But one of the panels they actually used like the design of her chest plate as like a panel design, and then there's like action panels within. I don't even know how to explain it, but like there was like a page where she's like falling after like the arm incident, and like it's just like each square captures the action of her falling before like flying off.
Yeah, comics tend to do that a lot, and I used to think it was weird, but the more I'd like analyzed and like actually stared at the panels to look like, okay, what are they doing here? I was like, oh, actually, that's kind of cool.
I've never seen this before. Like this is my first time, and it's like really interesting. I'm like low key taking notes. But also for her character, like I didn't expect her to be so kind despite being raised in hell. So that's like an interesting take that they're doing.
Yeah.
Very much so.
This book is very red and black. Very kind of like colors that are seen as like evil and dark. But the character herself, Wonder Woman, is this very kind character, and that's a very interesting dichotomy.
I agree.
And for me, all the art is gorgeous and the colors and all that. But what really stuck out to me this time around was the lettering. Like, there's just something about it that's so appealing to me because it's like this comic is also very heavy. I feel like that's just a consequence of Wonder Woman comics and like how eloquent and like well spoken she is. But it never felt dense at any point while reading it because of the letters. Like they're arranged and spaced and drawn in just the right way where it's like it feels like I'm reading a conversation, which is really nice. I really like the
Mhm.
Yeah.
letters for this one.
Shout out to Becca Carey. Excited to get some thoughts about very specific story moments as we get into the synopsis. So I've started doing a smart thing uh, by using summaries online and various different reviews to help me create these summaries. And for issue number one, I used fandom.com. Okay, so with issue number one, when an unknown object appears off the coast of Gateway City, the news station The Gate sends their reporter Alan on the scene to report what they know of the mysterious upside down pyramid hovering in the air, leaving government officials baffled. Before long, the object unleashes hundreds of flying creatures called harbingers upon the civilians of the city. As citizens begin to panic, as their city begins to suffer catastrophic damage from their assault, another hellish visitor arrives, Diana at Themyscira. Also, warning, this is the longest synopsis. The rest of them are much shorter because just a
Mhm.
lot was set up in this, and I promise you, it's much shorter than it could have been. um,
Mhm.
Right.
Flashing back to years ago to the Wild Isle of Hell, we find the great sorceress Circe, who has been imprisoned in this barren wasteland. Scavenging for resources, she's visited by the sun god Apollo. Apollo hands her the newest occupant of the underworld prison, a baby Diana, who he says is the last of the Amazons, and that the rest of their people um, are being punished for crimes against Zeus. Furthermore, Circe is told that she may never speak the word Amazon to prevent the child from knowing her origins, and she attempts to say it, but nothing comes out. And once Apollo leaves, Circe, feeling no responsibility for the child, simply lays the newborn on the ground and watches the serpent approach her. And but to her surprise, Diana snatches the snake mid-bite and tosses it into the distance. Intrigued by an interesting child, Circe decides to raise her, uh, watching as the beast of hell are no more capable of harming the child than the first serpent. The young Diana proves herself compassionate by treating the various other hell beasts that attempt to prey on her with kindness and compassion, charming her new adoptive mother. As the years pass in hell, Circe and Diana manage to turn the barren wasteland progressively more comforting and livable. While initially reluctant, Circe repeatedly comes to realize that the way to fall in love with a child is by raising it. Back in Gateway City, Diana warns a group of soldiers that they must evacuate the city of all civilians within a mile, because the Harbingers are not dead, merely stunned. Soon, a massive arm of a new Harbinger reveals itself from the object above Gateway City, and a more monstrous version of the Harbingers called Harbinger Prime appears from the upside down pyramid. Is it upside down?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Diana and Pegasus begin to fight the Harbinger Prime before we flash back once more to the Wild Isle, where Diana asks her mother of the word that she feels within her. One that she knows is important but is afraid to speak. Circe consoles Diana, assuring her that she is not afraid of the word, but afraid of the change that will follow it, and asks her to say the word she feels within her, Amazon. As Diana of the present stands her ground once more against Harbinger Prime, the Diana we concurrently see of the past asks Circe what the meaning of the word is. Circe explains that the Amazons were once protectors of the world, and that the world may fall without them. Compelled by her mother, Diana proclaims herself an Amazon over and over again, with the Diana of the present proclaiming it as well. Then approaching the Harbinger to announce that as long as she draws breath, this world will not be his. So, I will start with your guys' thoughts since I just spoke a lot.
I was to say
Okay.
issue one came out swinging. Like immediately from the
Definitely.
jump, I'm like, I'm locked in. I'm locked in. I'm rocking with this quite heavily. And like, I don't know, it's so interesting. The concept of your main, like, your hero being raised by one of their main villains is just, it's so fascinating. I think more comics should do
Mhm.
that.
Which is actually, I'm
And
glad you brought that up because I just thought about it because Bree, you just talked about rewatching Creature Commandos. I'm realizing that this is your first time seeing Cersei. She's in Creature Commandos.
yes.
She's the main villain. So Bree, you
Oh.
have experience with Cersei.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I only knew who she was because you've mentioned her before on the podcast. And when it was like Cersei, I was like, oh, I know her. I remember. And then I got confused for like a single second, and I'm like, wait, that's her op. Why is she being raised by her op? And then I remember this is absolute Wonder Woman, and
Yeah.
we can do anything we like.
Yeah, Wonder Woman's version of, the famous character from the Odyssey.
But yeah, but it really, the whole thing with the harbingers, and honestly, I'm one thing that really surprised me was that even though it took like a couple tries, the military actually listened to her. You never see that happen. Usually they're like, you gotta evacuate and get out, and they're like, we don't know who you are or what your intentions are, so we're not gonna listen to you, and then a whole bunch of people get killed. But it was refreshing to not see that happen this time, or at least see a lot less wanton destruction than there normally would be because of like a lack of listening to instructions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they could have moved a bit faster, but that's just me. But I'm
Yeah,
glad they did
definitely.
eventually listen, because
Right.
like there was no reason she should have came back and was like, why haven't you guys moved yet? Like, please hurry up.
Right.
And yeah, I sent a couple uh, screenshots from that first issue. And yeah, the paneling, you're right, Brie, it is awesome. It's incredible.
Hmm.
Like you said, the use
It's
of
so neat.
a lot of circles, which
A
isn't
lot of
which isn't a
circles.
very common panel shape. A lot of
Mm.
unusual panel shapes in this.
Hmm.
And when she first appears, we see her fly in on a bone a skeletal Pegasus. Fully clad in armor. The only thing uncovered are her fingertips. She's wearing fingerless gloves, and then she reaches into a bag of holding and pulls out the biggest sword you've ever seen in your entire life. That is just straight up the Buster sword, and then like slices at the various different harbingers, and it's very cool. And then we get a shot where she
Same.
like jumps off Pegasus and lands on the ground, and it's sick as hell. And then
If I had
she
a
takes the blood from the dead harbingers and rubs it across her eyes. It's insane how badass Wonder Woman is
true.
just at the very beginning of this issue.
Dijon actively falling in love.
I've
Right.
been in love with Wonder Woman for a long time.
If I had a nickel for every DC woman hero that had a secret horse that we didn't know about, I'd have two nickels, which is not a lot, but it's crazy that it happened
Yeah,
twice.
but something I really wanted to kind of emphasize is how the kindness that we referred to earlier when we were talking about the art itself and kind of talking very broadly, but we see it here how the various different monsters of hell attack Diana, but she's just too powerful for them to really do anything to. And as a result, she just kind of uses the fact that she can't really be harmed and that she can overpower them to just kind of just be. She is kind to them, and then they learn to be kind to her. And that is like just a very big part of Wonder Woman's character
Mhm.
that I love that they
Mhm.
emphasize so heavily in this book. In the very first issue, same thing with her relationship with Cersei. Very similarly to the Beast of the Wild Isle, Cersei, in her own way, tried to harm her, but couldn't because she's too powerful. And then, even as a baby, she showed a certain level of kindness to Cersei that resulted in her softening up and just being a mother. Something I'm
Mhm.
sure she didn't expect to be when she was punished by being thrown on this isolated island in the underworld.
Mhm.
Right.
And yeah, there's that line I said that was a direct quote. Let me find it real quick. She comes to realize that the way to fall in love with a child is by raising it. And I'm like,
Mm.
just love and
Mm.
peace and kindness.
Very
Yay,
That's what
found
Wonder Woman is about.
family. Mhm.
Found family will always be my favorite dynamic.
Yeah.
Same.
Really?
But I liked seeing the progression of their home,
Yes.
like
Mhm.
from rags to quote unquote riches, and like seeing the creatures of hell cuddling with Diana as she's sleeping. I was like, that's so neat. Because I
Yeah.
was like, isn't that the snake from before that tried to bite her when she was a baby? Most definitely is.
Yeah, and seeing her grow
It's
up at the
so
same
cute.
time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's like her Pegasus, but like there's like a teeny horse in there.
No, I didn't notice that.
Like when she's like playing with the demons, there's like a teeny horse in the background. I was like, is that Pegasus? He's so little.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Any more thoughts on issue number one?
I will say a little bit for me, I was kind of like struggling to track the action. It's not
Mm.
as like detailed as like what Supergirl was. Like it does leave room for like imagination though, which I do kind of enjoy.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel that way about. I feel like a lot of comics. They're not as good as at the momentum of action.
Hmm.
American
Yeah.
comics specifically, in comparison to something like manga, they're not really good when it comes to the momentum of
Yeah, you kind
action.
of just gotta fill in the gaps,
And the
Mhm.
ones that
which is
the
fine.
ones that do it the best are very clearly the artists that grew up reading manga. But moving on to issue number two, where I am pulling from Chandler McNeil's review from comicbookmovie.com. The issue starts right where we left off with one woman fighting Harbinger Prime. And her lasso is revealed to actually be called Nemesis. And unlike the lasso of truth, which forces those it holds to tell the truth, Nemesis makes them feel pain, proportional to the sins committed by the person it's holding or the thing. Very similar to Ghost Rider's penance.
Mm.
The Harbinger admits defeat, and Diana mercifully allows it to live as long as it promises to never return. Meanwhile, behind Diana, appearing from the smoke and ash of the battle, is Steve Trevor. We then flash back to the Wild Isle, where Diana finds Steve Trevor washed up on the shore and takes him back to her home to be healed. After he awakes, Diana explains to Steve that he's in the underworld, and he wonders if he's dead. But it's not confirmed in this chapter whether that is the case or if he wound up in the underworld some other way. He then
Hmm.
introduces himself to Cersei and goes for a walk with Diana, where they get to know each other a bit more, and maybe a little romance is budding. It's here where Steve comments on Diana's height and points out that he's a very tall man, and she stands shoulder to shoulder with him, meaning she's well over 6 feet. She's tall as hell. Uh,
Hmm.
which we definitely notice later on, which we'll get to. Back in the present, they embrace each other, reunited after an undetermined amount of time. And Steve then brings Diana to his commanding officer, Cole, um, or his commanding officer, Cole. Commander Cole proceeds to yell at Diana out of frustration. We get the thing that didn't happen in issue one, but you both were expecting, uh, which is just military men yelling at the lady for just not
Mhm.
doing what they want her to do. And Diana points that out, that he's just frustrated because he does know what's going on and he doesn't have control. And then she begins to take charge of the defense, much to the chagrin of the commander, who begins yelling at Steve instead, which upsets Diana, causing her to menacingly stand over him and explain that they need her more than she needs them, and that they can continue discussing the defense when everyone has calmed down. And in the commander's rant, he says to Steve, the rest of the world may think you some kind of superhero meets Jesus, possibly meaning that Steve did die somehow and
Mm.
came back, and it was seen as a miracle. Uh, After rebuffing the commander, Diana leaves the room to feed her horse, with Steve following to apologize for his commander, but is distracted by what we learn to be the Pegasus that was slain by Zeus.
Mm.
Also, a little known power of Wonder Woman was revealed here, which is also a power she has in the main universe, which is to talk to animals. She's a Disney princess. Um, but their convo about Pegasus is cut short by a pain inducing sound, which Diana runs to find the source of and sees a massive uh, demigorgon looking creature standing in the ocean. Oh, I there's a note I forgot to delete that just has nothing to do with anything. Uh, but actually, that's the end of the issue. So, what are your thoughts on issue number two? A lot less action, more talking. Well, there was a decent amount of action towards the beginning, and then the rest of the issue was just some uh, military men being angry, being
I
intimidated by the
understand.
like 6'3" lady that was towering all over all of them.
Right. I understand what they're setting up with the Steve Trevor thing, and it's like their budding romance is very cute, yada yada yada. That's a Wonder Woman for the girls. Okay, listen,
We'll get to that in
I
issue number 3.
oh boy,
Yeah.
it's like I can't picture her with a man. I fear I just can't.
No, same. If it was, he'd have to be picked.
Oh, absolutely. But outside of that, I really, 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 really liked issue 2. I liked the way it kind of did exposition, but didn't dump it on top of us. And like,
Mm.
I like that it showed a little bit more of like, Diana's past with Circe or Circe. I still don't know how to pronounce it, and I've read the Odyssey, the Madeline Miller book, and this. One day we'll figure it out. I'm gonna say Circe because that sounds right. But more of her past with Circe, more of her as a young adult with Circe. I thought that was really really interesting to get that kind of glimpse into her character where she's in that phase of like, Mom, I'm getting older.
Was
It,
it?
it was cool. I liked
I
it.
forgot the note.
What's that?
It was the note that I actually skipped over because it was out of place because I forgot to delete it. But I did want to mention it.
Mm.
Was that was it in issue number 2 that she like is talking to her mother and she's like they sent me a gift and she was referring to Steve
Yeah,
Yeah, it
and
is.
yeah.
and it was just her having a little crush on Steve and like he's a gift to me, and her mother is just like, what are
I was
you
like, a
talking about?
gift? Mm.
You think
Right.
they gave you a whole man as a gift?
But yeah, I liked issue 2 a lot.
I also like issue 2, and you like explained it perfectly. I don't think I can add anything on to it.
I
My thoughts are with issue 3 because, well,
was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. What else? Minus the hell part, this is very similar to Steve and Diana's first meeting, and their dynamic in the main universe. Uh, and yeah, I think that's about all I have to say.
I was gonna say, now that I think about it, it was in what was that other Wonder Woman comic you made us read?
against
It
our
was.
will. That's what it sounds like. You
Um,
made us read.
George
Mhm.
Perez's the first issue.
I, I think so, yeah. And Steve was in that, wasn't he?
I
If I'm
think
remembering correctly.
I think he showed up at the very end.
Okay.
Moving on to issue number 3, the final issue we'll be covering this episode. We open on Gateway City Natural History Museum, where we're introduced to Barbara Ann Minerva, who sees Diana on TV and is the first person, as far as I can tell, to call her Wonder Woman before she runs off, presumably in the search of Diana. We then go back to Diana, who begins to inform the soldiers about the creature on the beach. It is called the Tetracide, meaning the four killer, because it kills you in 4 ways: death of fear, death of mind, death of body, and death of soul. It completely takes away your ability to feel fear, lures you in with a sound, and then eats you and destroys your soul. Diana suggests that they evacuate the city as she flies off to fight it, in which she attempts to wrap it up with her nemesis lasso and force it to cement like Harbinger Prime. But before she's able to, she's restrained by the Tetracide's tentacles. Before we get a flashback to the Wild Isle while Steve Trevor was there and see them fighting a Hydra. After fighting the Hydra, they have a fireside conversation about how, despite the hardships of the Wild Isle, Circe and Diana have turned it into a home. Their own little paradise, as Steve puts it, as a not so subtle nod to Themyscira, aka Paradise Island. Diana
Mm.
then responds with, "Love is transformative, Steve, always," which is a huge aspect of Wonder Woman's character, both here and in the main universe, that
Mm.
I also love. And Steve says that the service could use a lot more of that. Next, we learn how Steve escaped the underworld with the help of Diana and Circe. Diana finds a spell that would send Steve back to man's world, but Circe warns that it requires a great sacrifice. And the sacrifice that Diana makes is her dominant arm. After doing so, Diana and Circe perform the spell and send Steve back to Gateway City. Back in the present, we see the arm being restrained by the Tetracide, is the one that she's not supposed to have. And she undoes the magic that's creating this arm she has and retreats to the Kraken, which is the name of the bar that the soldiers are using as a base of operations. Um, and she pulls a mechanical arm out of her bag of holding and places it on her stump. Upon seeing this, Steve understands what Diana sacrificed to bring him back. and he calls it the arm of a hero, where she called it the arm of a warrior. Diana then yells at the soldiers to leave once more, which they refuse to do, so she comes up with a new idea to deafen the entire city using a spell while she fights the Tetracide. As she rushes out to execute this plan, she bumps into Barbara, who catches her in the gayest way possible, potentially
Yeah.
setting up a romance that Wonder Woman fans have been wanting for decades. Do not look up Barbara and Minerva. That will be the biggest spoiler in the fucking world if you don't know who she is.
Mm.
Maybe you can figure it out. But don't
I
think
feel like the Minerva is tipping me off a little bit,
yeah,
but
probably. Don't look it up. But yeah, Barbara calls Diana Wonder Woman, which confuses her. And she then explains that it's what the Amazons call their greatest warrior, sparking Diana's interest. But before they could talk about it more, the Tetracide begins screeching, so Diana rushes off to finish her plan. She rushes off to where the reporter we saw at the beginning of issue number 1 is, Alan, who is reporting live. And she tells the citizens of Gateway City on live television what her plan is, that she is planning to deafen the city, and that it will be up to those that see this broadcast to stay calm and show their neighbors kindness and compassion by helping them understand what's going on. Ending the message with Wonder Woman believes in you, taking claim of the name Barbara gave her, before unleashing her deafen spell. So, what were your thoughts on issue number 3?
Issue number 3 was such an intense chapter. Like, I did not
Mhm.
know what was gonna go on at all. Like, when you told us about Absolute Wonder Woman, this was not what I was expecting. So it's
For
like a pleasant
sure.
surprise. But also the contrast, like when it goes into like the backstory about how Steve got sent back or like essentially revived, like the contrast in colors between Diana and Cersei as she's like sitting by the fire with her arm just off and she's like fine with it, mind you, like she's not reacting at all. And how she's like shrouded in red and like Cersei's colors is kind of dull. And then as they're casting the spell, like yeah, they're green, but it was mainly Diana who was like super green. So I feel like there's some kind of symbolism there. I don't know just
Mhm.
yet, but also I think it's pretty sick that her arm was magic. 'Cause I was like, oh, did she just grow it back somehow? But no, that's
That's what I
actually
was
pretty
thinking.
cool. It's like, where did that come from?
Yeah, the reveal of the prosthetic went crazy. I was like, because it's like it comes out of left field, but when you go back and you look at it, you're like, wait, that makes total sense. And like, I like that they didn't make it this whole big, like, whole bunch of hullabaloo. Like Diana did what she knew needed to be done, and then it was done, and she's lived with it ever since. And I think that's a really good way to like represent that kind of thing, where it's like, yes, her normal has changed, but that hasn't like changed her fundamentally as a person. And like, it also really shows like sets up again that selfless, that kind character that's like she'd give up an arm for a man that just so happened to fall into where she lives at. Like that's kind of crazy
Hmm.
in all
I
the
still
best
want to
ways,
know
of
how he
course.
got there in general.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because they do mention in like, I think this chapter that it wasn't like a gift, he was a test essentially.
Yeah, which was really interesting to me.
Yeah, we get a lot more of that kindness and compassion, which is essentially Wonder Woman's entire ethos. With her kind of encouraging, uh, the people of Gateway City to also spread that kindness, and we see it a little bit in the other Wonder Woman comics we've read so far. But the Amazons were created to help um, men and women essentially get along, and help the world progress through cooperation. Um, and Wonder Woman, after the Amazons kind of fail at that, Wonder Woman kind of goes off on her own to essentially continue down that path, and we see that a bit here as well. Which I love how much of the core Wonder Woman character is retained in this version of the character, which is kind of the idea of the
Mhm.
Absolute Universe, is that the circumstances are different, but the idea is to show what really makes these characters tick and make them who they are.
The absolute essence of their character.
Yes. And so, Brie, you mentioned how this is different from what you expected, and I have a feeling it is. What I'm about to, what the kind of the next thing I want to focus on before we move on, is it's the magic. You is
Yeah.
it the magic that's the different thing for you that you weren't expecting?
I guess like this series started off or is starting off really, really strong.
Mm,
I think it might be the magic in like the witchcraft
yeah.
because I don't think I see her using magic like that. So to see it now is pretty interesting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, it begs the question: why has this version of Wonder Woman brought in so many new fans? So, Wonder Woman used to be a much more magical character. But as the years go by, she became less and less magical and just became a female
Yeah.
Superman, where she's just strong and can fly and is super durable and fast and shit like that. Basic ass superpowers. But this book
Right.
doubles down on the magic and takes it even further by making it less, your basic comic book magic like Loki and Thor. He just waves his hand and shit happens. Instead, she's a witch and she has to mix things and have ingredients, and magic has a cost. And when we see her start to perform a spell at the end of issue number 3, she tells them to point the camera away because the average person hasn't earned the right to perform magic, because we don't know how responsible these random people are. If they see
Mm.
this spell and it's put out on the internet, people just start doing a deafened,
Making other people
yeah,
do
just start
it.
doing a deafened spell. And like, yeah, she's very magical. And they need to, this is the biggest thing from this book, and the reason why of all the Wonder Woman comics I've read so far, this is my favorite, is the magic. It helps
Mm-hmm.
make her very different from, I would say, the trinity of DC. Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman. What sets her
Mm-hmm.
apart from Batman and Superman, I feel like, is the magic and the myth. It's the
Mm-hmm.
Greek pantheon and the magic surrounding it, and you remove that magic and she becomes not that similar or different from Superman in terms of specifically power set, and the magic
Mm.
helps make her different. And
For sure.
I like how much they're leaning into that here, and I this is something that I hope they see, and they realize, oh, we can do that in the main universe. We can bring the magical elements of her character back, because it happens a lot in George Perez's run, but she'll like, I mean, she says it. You hear her several times. She'll bless the gods before she does something, and she did that a lot in the main universe, in older comics. And she would perform magic, through boons from the gods all the time. And that's something I just want more in the main universe, and we're not getting that with Tom King's run at the moment. And
Mm.
that's why, like, most hardcore Wonder Woman fans are flocking towards this book and encouraging other people to read this book. And this is being a lot of people's very first Wonder Woman book that it's leading into them going back and reading older ones, and it's
Right.
awesome. This is just everything I want from the main universe Wonder Woman.
Hmm.
I was to say, I found myself like a lot of the times inadvertently in my head when they would do like their little spells. I'd be like, "So much it be," like they do in Hades
Yes.
2. In my
Mm.
head, like because that's exactly what it reminded me of. I'm like, this is like she like the way Wonder Woman is characterized in this is like Millennium. If like if you took all the brashness and the boldness of Zagreus and then sprinkled that on Millennium a little bit, and I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's fun.
Yeah, for sure. On top of that, of course, it's a completely new universe that's being explored for the very first time, which makes it an easy jumping on point, for people who are afraid to read comics from the main universe with its 80 plus years of history. And as a result,
Mm.
people who start with the Absolute comics, because they're easy jumping on points, will likely start to read other comics now that they're more
That's the hope, at least.
comfortable with the format.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, any more kind of just overall thoughts of Absolute Wonder Woman so far?
I can't wait to see more.
Mm.
Yes, I am.
So there's this first volume is 7 issues. So we're gonna do 2 issues next episode, and then another 2 issues. Those last 2 issues are actually gonna be by a different artist, but just as good as Hayden Sherman. You're gonna love the art in those last 2 issues.
Hmm.
But essentially this arc wraps up in the next 2 issues, and then those 2 issues are their own little mini arc that leads into the next one.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Not bad at all.
All
What I
right.
like about these Absolute comics is that they're like really easy to read.
For
Like
sure.
super easy to read.
Yeah,
Not like I'm illiterate or anything, but like they're very enjoyable.
it's hilarious you say that,
Yeah.
because I was Editing out a clip to post earlier today, and you said the exact same thing in the last episode.
Because I don't want people to think I'm illiterate when I say it's easy to read. I mean, like,
Like
it's,
you
like,
said
very
it the exact
comfortable on the
same way
eye.
in the exact same tonation. Like my brain Loki had deja
Because
vu, and I was like, "Am I editing right now? What's going on?
yes, you
Am I dreaming?"
you are dreaming.